One word, plastic. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I hope you're having a great day today. I am, as you know, a huge fan of documentaries. I like a lot of, to me, a really good doc is something that gets into the inside baseball of a subject and also has a passion for that subject. Growing up, I was obsessed with watching, of course, cartoons, because what young child is not also obsessed with cartoons? But on Saturday morning, I knew cartoons were over as soon as they switched to live action, funny animal shows and nature shows. But the kind of shows I loved the most were these shows that told you and explained how they actually make things. How does the toothpaste get into the tube? How do they make hot dogs? How do they make things made from plastic? Well, there's a documentary that is out now. It's directed by John Maher, and it is called All Things Bakelite, The Age of Plastics. John is here on the Film Threat Podcast to talk to me today. He has specifically requested to be on this side for a better eye line. I agree with him, and this is something a director would say for sure. John, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great. Listen, eyeline, goes back probably millions of years when humans and animals had to check each other out. So the eyeline is literally critical to within maybe a half an inch or something. I don't know.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's also something that directors, I know, you have to kind of fetishize over that, getting that eyeline right. And it's something that isn't appreciated because if you don't get it right, the audience will sense something is wrong. They just don't know exactly what it is. So
what could possibly be wrong? I'm talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So, here you are. Yeah, I'm talking to you. It's just, but this movie, I'd say, is because there's a scene that opens your movie is sort of man on the street interviews of what is Bakelite? What is Bakelite? I knew what Bakelite was. I've known what Bakelite was and is because I have here an old phone that is made from Bakelite. This is I turned this into kind of a prop. You can probably recognize where that's from or what it's inspired by, the old Adam West 1966 Batman television series. But this is made from Bakelite. So many things are made from Bakelite. Now, I never knew the story of Bakelite, but I did have a girlfriend once years ago that was totally into Bakelite jewelry.
Oh yeah,
which is really a thing. But tell me what got you into like, okay, I know what Bakelite is. I'm one of the people who understands that and can pronounce it. What made you want to like just forge ahead and go, all right, I'm going to make a whole documentary about it, how it was developed, the family and how they like, it's a I didn't realize how much Bakelite actually changed the world, but what made you want to make this doc?
Well, Chris, oh no, a malfunction. Unlike you, Chris, I had the vaguest idea what Bakelite was growing up. And when we went to Times Square, we got all these kind of puzzled answers, which is really what I was looking for to start the film in Times Square the night we shot that scene at the beginning of the film. But what happened was I was working on another film. At the time I was living in Redding, Connecticut, and I was doing a film, a little history film on the town of Redding. And I needed two really good dancers to dance. I guess we'd call it 60s, or I'm sorry, 20s style flapper music and dancing. And I got a terrific couple, you and Sherry Carricker, and they danced in the film. And later, and it turns out you Carricker was spying on me in terms of how I worked with the other on the other documentary in terms of things like budget and crew and attitude and all that stuff. I call it, Chris, the dance of the Tarantulas. When you start a project, you're checking each other out. And after I finished this little film, A Georgetown Story, he invited me to work on his family story of the creation of Bakelite. His great grandfather was Leo Baekeland, who invented it.
Well, it's really interesting the way you. Oh wait, you want to be on this side? Here we go. It's really interesting the way you went into the whole family history. There's a really interesting HBO Max series about people who run all these kind of cons, and it's interesting that I believe a descendant of the Baekeland family is involved in that, which I thought that's a whole other thing you can see on HBO Max. But
oh yeah, there was a con. Yeah, you character was telling me about that.
Yeah, fascinating. But this thing is really interesting because I didn't realize how much there was, just first of all, the story of inventing Bakelite, but how it impacted everything. Because previous to that, to be able to make a shape of something simple was so difficult. And Bakelite just, it had all the elements, including, like I say, Bakelite jewelry, which was a thing in the 60s.
Yes, right.
Strangely.
Andy Warhol was a big collector. And actually, apparently, Warhol revived the whole idea of Bakelite as a cool thing to collect.
How did you go about getting all of the archival footage? I mean, you did a significant amount of digging, and you had to have worked with the family to be able to get the photography that you did. Yes,
there was a couple of archives. One was called the Peterson Archive, and there was the Von Hessert Archive, which were family movies that we were able to acquire and use parts of it in the film. And it's a little tech thing, but it's interesting that 16 millimeter film, when transferred high def as opposed to standard def, reveals almost a third more stuff, more information, picture information. So when we transferred in high def, we were really very pleasantly surprised at the quality of the images from the 30s. Good old Kodachrome.
Oh my God. Okay. Kodachrome, when I was a kid and first started getting into Super 8 filmmaking, Kodachrome was my favorite film stock, an ASA of 40, which had almost no film grain.
Right.
No, it was like, I used to describe it when I was shooting it. I mean, I was in high school when I used to make little Kodachrome Super 8 movies, but it was like filming with a box of crayons.
Yes, very, very saturated color.
Exactly. It was so vibrant. So I love that you know Kodachrome.
Well, let's just go into one little interesting thing about it. Before Leo invented Bakelite, he was dabbling with film stocks, still photographic, not the film stocks, I'm sorry, the paper that you would use to develop your still pictures. And he developed a wonderful product called Velux that eventually George Eastman bought from him, that had much better contrast. It was much easier to work with, and it really brought, I mean, it's thinking about plastic, but think about the impact that images have had on our world. People don't realize that 100 years ago, 150 years ago, there were no images other than drawings of people. So that was a big deal. It actually gave him the money to buy a mansion on the Hudson River in Yonkers, New York, and to be able to get back into figuring out how to deal with Bakelite and the phenolic reaction. So he had an interesting. He was paid a huge amount of money in 1899, anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million by George Eastman to sell the Velux patent to him.
Well, it's interesting. You did bring up that there were other plastics, other types of plastics out there, and you even spoke to a woman who was recently, she invented like some new development of plastic.
Yeah, Jamie Garcia out at IBM, the IBM research organization in California, somehow stumbled upon a new type of plastic. Actually, it's two different things. It's Titan and Hydro. Titan is a very strong, flexible, lightweight plastic, and Hydro is actually somehow water-based. And when you pull it apart and put it back together, it actually links back together. So it's pretty amazing that she was able to discover this basically on her own. I guess she had a lot of help, but she was the one who spearheaded it, and she's in the film talking about not only Bakelite, but the fact that what she did is sort of like the great grandson of Bakelite in a way.
Wow. Have you ever heard of this? Is okay. We're getting into a very nerdy conversation. So I just want to say to people who listen to the Film Threat podcast or watch us on YouTube with any regularity, that you probably didn't think today that you would be hearing or watching a whole conversation about all types of plastics. But this is what you signed up for when you clicked play. There's another plastic that I use. It's called Sugru. SUGRU, Sugru.
I have never heard of that.
It's from a company in London, and it's basically it's a plastic that hardens in 30. It sort of sets in 30 minutes, and you can sculpt it into any shape. And I've used it to repair things on my car, and used it to for certain types of filmmaking devices. I've used it. It's SUGRU, Sugru. And I'll order it in packs, and it's amazing. Once you open it, once it's exposed to air, you've only got 30 minutes to sculpt. But it's fantastic. But
I may try that. I have a fence out in the back. I'd like to has little notches in it. I'd like to fill those in. Maybe I'll try that.
Oh, okay. So the Sugru is really good because it comes in various colors, and you can actually mix the types of colors to create new colors. And it's, I love it. I've used it for art projects. I've used it like for like I say, like repairs on my car and like weird stuff. Like you can really just mold it into any shape. And once it sets at 30 minutes, it takes like about another 24 hours to harden. And then you've got like this hardened, it's definitely it's a rubber. It's sort of a rubbery shape. But yeah, so, okay. So this was, I mean, All Things Bakelite could have been a whole series from this conversation. What was the family's reaction now to having their story told? What do they think?
Well, I think it's interesting, and I've noticed this on other films, Chris, that there's mild annoyance at the point where you're actually doing the production from family members and all, and then later when they see it, they go, "Oh my, it's wow, this is because films are really." I like to say films are people too. They are living beings that you bring to life in the way you do them, and the way you structure it, the people you have on them, and all the craftspeople that help. So I think people in the family liked basically what they saw, even though when we were shooting it, not that they were hostile or anything, but it's a hassle to do production, and people don't necessarily know what you're up to until they see the end result. So I think in general, I think that they dug what they saw.
Well, I just appreciate the fact that there's an entire documentary about Bakelite, and that I was just as frustrated maybe as you were when you were out in New York talking to people. Although you did find one person who knew what Bakelite is, which I thought was great. What can I say? I like nerdy documentaries that take like a topic and just take an incredibly deep dive. And I really appreciate what you were able to put together with this doc.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. Can I tell folks where they can see it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. We're rolling it out on June 29th coming up. It's going to be available on iTunes, Apple TV Plus, Google Play, YouTube, and Vudu Domestic. So it's out there. I think it's going to be available to purchase or to stream. So if people want to take a look at it, I think it's going to. I tried to make it entertaining. I think the biggest problem with any kind of film is particularly one that's got a very niche subject, is to make it entertaining and make it accessible to a lot of people without betraying the truth of your story.
Well, you did make it entertaining. There's a song about Bakelite in it.
Yes.
So there's a very catchy tune about Bakelite. So
well, yeah, I have to credit Martin J. Fiji, my composer, who I've worked with for 35 years now. And we have sometimes a contentious relationship when it comes to what I think is the right music, and he's brilliant at it. And Craig McAterian, our editor, is also. This is my 23rd or 24th film, and we've worked on for the last almost 15 years on projects. So I have to credit having good collaborators, even though I'm a pain in the ass and I insist on what I think we should do. I tell them I'm the bus driver.
Well, John, I appreciate it. All Things Bakelite. Get it on all your streaming platforms or where you get your movies on video on demand. Thanks for talking to us on the Film Threat Podcast.
Thank you, Chris.